You ever have one of those moments where everything shifts, but no one else notices? Like time bends just for you and suddenly you're on the outside of your own life, watching it fold in on itself. That was me on a Tuesday. A normal, unremarkable Tuesday. I got home early from a trip to Boise ahead of schedule thanks to a last-minute flight change. Normally, I'd call Haley to let her know I was on my way, maybe hear her excited voice asking what I wanted for dinner. But this time I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to surprise her. Maybe I just needed to walk into our house without preparing myself for it. For her. The house was quiet when I stepped in. Not dead silent, just absent. No music playing, no TV on low in the background. No clinking of dishes or Haley laughing at one of her cheesy crime shows. I walked through the foyer, past the framed picture from our anniversary trip to Big Sur, and set my bag down near the coat rack. Then I heard it. A buzz. Quick. Then again. I followed the sound into the kitchen. Haley's phone was lying face up on the windowsill. Odd. She was usually glued to it, or at least kept it tucked away in her purse when I was around. It buzzed once more, and that's when the screen lit up and I saw it. A message. From someone named Jay. No last name, no emoji, just the single letter. The message said, "Couldn't stop thinking about last night." Attached was a photo. It took me a second to register what I was looking at. Haley, my Haley, lying in bed. Sheets pulled up just enough to be coy, but it wasn't just her body that struck me. It was the look in her eyes, soft, familiar, something I used to think was reserved for me. A look that once made me feel chosen. Now it felt like a slap. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't need to. That one image said enough. The caption below read, "Missed this view already." I backed away slowly like I was afraid to wake a sleeping animal. I stood there in our kitchen, the refrigerator humming behind me, the world oddly still. I felt like a ghost in my own life. A moment later, I heard the front door open. Haley walked in, humming to herself, a small shopping bag in one hand and a glass of red wine in the other. She smiled when she saw me. "Trevor, you're back early." "Yeah," I said. My voice felt dry. Mechanical. Flight got bumped. She leaned in to kiss me, but I stepped aside. She paused, confused, then followed my line of sight to her phone on the sill. She picked it up without missing a beat. "What's up?" she asked casually, sipping her wine. I saw a message. She blinked once. "From who?" "Jay." Her lips curled into an almost smile, like I'd just accused her of forgetting to take the trash out. "Oh my God, are you serious? That's from forever ago. It's just an old joke between me and Ashley." "Ashley?" I asked. "Ashley sends you selfies in bed?" She laughed a little too quickly. No. Okay, so this one time we were having wine and trying to mess with her boyfriend. We took a bunch of flirty photos and sent them to confuse him, like some inside joke thing. That picture must have just been saved and accidentally sent. She's probably drunk. Again. It was the kind of explanation that sounded ridiculous and harmless at the same time, just plausible enough to make me question my gut. And Haley delivered it like a pro. Not defensive, not frantic. Just tired of having to explain herself. As if I was the one reaching. "You think I'm cheating on you over a photo?" she asked, setting the wine down and giving me this look, half pity, half offense. "Seriously, Trev? After everything we've been through?" I didn't answer. My chest felt like it was filled with gravel. The kind of ache that doesn't hurt until later when the adrenaline wears off. She leaned back against the counter, arms folded. "You know what? This is exactly why I don't tell you certain things. Because you take stuff and run with it. One stupid message and now I'm the bad guy." I swallowed hard. I didn't say anything. "You didn't have to," she said, voice sharp. And that was that. The conversation ended not because we reached clarity, but because she made it clear I had no right to question her. I let her win the silence because I didn't know what to say. I went upstairs, changed out of my travel clothes, and lay on our bed staring at the ceiling. She came in later, kissed me on the cheek, and curled up beside me like nothing had happened. Her breathing slowed. She fell asleep. And I just stared at the ceiling fan, letting it whirl and whirl like the thoughts in my head. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the message. Not even because of the photo. But because of how easily she deflected it. She was cool, calculated. She didn't stumble. No awkward pauses, no shaky voice. And when she accused me of being paranoid, I actually wondered if she was right. I almost convinced myself that maybe I was seeing too much into it. But then I remembered her eyes in that photo. That look wasn't an inside joke. That was real. That look was for someone else. After that night, something in me split down the middle. Not all at once, just a quiet, slow fracture. The kind of break that doesn't make a sound but shifts the weight of everything around it. I didn't confront Haley again. I didn't even bring up the message. But I started watching. And when you start watching someone you love, really watching them, you stop being a partner and start being a detective. Or worse, a stranger. I began noticing things I had previously written off. Things I'd explained away for years because I didn't want to believe there could be anything behind them. But now they formed a pattern. There was the cologne. That came first. Haley never wore strong perfume, and I'd always found it endearing, said it made her feel real. But lately, she came home from her client meetings with a scent on her that didn't belong to her. It wasn't hers, and it sure as hell wasn't mine. Once or twice, I even smelled it on the laundry on the collar of a blazer she claimed to have worn all day. I asked about it once. She looked at me like I was accusing her of a felony. Do you think I'm out rolling around on strange men, Trevor? No. I just noticed it, that's all. Well, maybe you should stop sniffing my clothes and get a hobby. I laughed it off at the time. I always did. Haley had the talent, making me feel ridiculous for noticing things that shouldn't add up. But from that moment forward, I stopped assuming the problem was me. Then came the password change. For years, her phone was an open book. Not because I checked it, God no, that was never our dynamic, but because she never felt the need to guard it. She'd leave it on the kitchen counter, screen unlocked, text bubbles lighting up mid-conversation. But not anymore. One day, I picked it up to hand it to her during breakfast, and it asked for a new password. I looked at her, confused. Did you change your passcode? She didn't even blink. Yeah. Work stuff. Since when does interior design require encryption? She gave me a flat look. You know, some of my clients are high profile. Some of them sign NDAs. I can't be careless. It was logical. It made sense. But it felt wrong. Like someone switching their toothbrush to the opposite hand for no reason. Small, but telling. Then there was the keycard. One morning, she left in a rush. I don't remember why, maybe a last-minute site visit or a supplier meeting. Something urgent. After she left, I noticed her keys still on the counter. She never left without them. Out of instinct, I grabbed them to bring to her, and that's when I saw it. A hotel keycard wedged between her regular keys and her gym fob. It was one of those generic cards, white with a gold stripe, no logo. Just a room key. It wasn't for a business hotel. I'd seen this brand before. It belonged to a boutique in just outside of town. The kind with private fireplaces and clawfoot tubs. The kind you go to when you want to disappear for a night. With someone. When I asked her about it, she laughed. Oh God, that? I stayed overnight for a client job last month. They were redoing the master suite and I couldn't get home in the storm. It's old. I must have forgotten it was there. Which client? Jesus, Trevor. Do you need an itinerary? That ended the conversation. I didn't push it, but I kept the card. I started keeping everything, actually. Notes, dates, receipts, photos of odd moments. A spreadsheet tucked deep into my personal files. I wasn't trying to build a case. I just needed to be sure that I wasn't crazy. That the woman I'd spent 5 years with wasn't just drifting, she was deliberately hiding something. The late nights became more frequent. Client dinners, she'd say. Team happy hour. Emergency meetings. Always vague. Always rushed. Then came the night our son said something I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday, the same day she'd claimed she was meeting a supplier in the city. I was in the garage with Owen, helping him fix his bike. He was 7, all scraped knees and endless curiosity. I remember I was tightening a bolt when he said, so casually, Mommy's friend was here again today. I stopped. Friend? Yeah. The tall one with the beard? He brought her flowers. I set the wrench down slowly. When was this? After school. I was in the living room and Mommy said I should go play outside. Did she say his name? Owen shook his head. She just called him Jay. Jay. Jay, the message. I smiled for his sake. Thanks, buddy. Want some lemonade? He nodded, oblivious to what he had just dropped in my lap. That night, Haley came home smelling of white wine and confidence. I asked how her meeting went. She said it was productive but exhausting. I asked if anything happened at the house. She said no, dead quiet all day. That was the moment I knew. The photos, the smells, the lies. All of it was bad. But it was hearing my son say those words, and watching Haley lie straight to my face knowing he was in the room, that crushed the last piece of trust one had left. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded. And I made a decision. I would find the truth. On my own terms. Quietly, methodically. I didn't want drama. I didn't want confrontation. I just wanted the truth to be undeniable. If I was wrong, I could live with the shame. But if I was right, then God help her. The thing about suspicion is, once it takes root, it doesn't just sit there. It grows. It weaves itself into your routines, it infects your conversations, and eventually it demands proof. Cold, hard proof. That's how I found myself sitting in my car outside a lakeside cottage on the edge of town. Camera in hand, heart pounding, feeling like a third-rate private eye in a low-budget movie. But this wasn't fiction. This was my life unraveling, slowly, deliberately. Started a week earlier. I had been waiting for the right moment, watching Haley's schedule, noting her patterns. Tuesdays were her client meeting days in the city. Always the same story. Traffic on the I-90, dinner ran long, didn't want to drive home exhausted. She'd walk in smelling like wine and eucalyptus, with a plastic smile and tired eyes. I had called in a personal day from work and made arrangements. Owen would be at his grandmother's, Haley's mom, who still thought the sun shone from her daughter's eyes. I'd packed a small overnight bag, just in case, and drove behind her at a distance that wouldn't trigger suspicion. She didn't go to the city, not even close. She drove 32 miles north, past the industrial strip, past the lake where we'd taken Owen to fish last summer, and eventually turned down a gravel road leading to a secluded property I never knew existed. It was a cottage, one of those romantic ones, tucked away behind trees, with ivy on the gate and just enough charm to feel intentional. She parked her car, got out, took a breath and fixed her hair in the side mirror. That little detail nearly broke me. She looked like someone about to meet someone she wanted to impress. I didn't follow her in. Not yet. Instead, I checked into a small roadside inn about 100 yards away. My room had a perfect view of the cottage's porch and side window. I set up my camera with a long lens and waited. 3 hours passed. Nothing. Then, just as the sun started to dip, a black SUV rolled down the gravel and pulled up beside her car. A man stepped out. Tall, beard, suit jacket in hand, flowers in the other. Haley opened the door before he could knock. She smiled like a girl seeing her prom date, threw her arms around him, kissed his cheek. No, his mouth, and guided him inside. I felt cold in a way I can't explain. Not rage, not even heartbreak, just a vacancy, like my emotions had been siphoned out of me, leaving behind only observation. Clinical, distant, focused. I clicked the shutter. Once, twice, 3 times. From my vantage point, I could see just enough through the windows. They poured wine. Red, the kind she always said gave her headaches, apparently not anymore. They laughed. She touched his hand across the table. Her wedding ring was off. I zoomed in, confirmed it. Off. She wore the green dress. I remember that detail because she only ever wore it once before, during a hospital visit when my father was recovering from surgery. She said it was sentimental. The last thing she wore when he could still recognize her before the dementia worsened. And now she was wearing it for someone else. That cut deeper than anything. They moved to the porch as twilight settled in, sitting side by side on the bench, her head on his shoulder, their glasses resting together on the railing. At one point, she threw her head back laughing, then pulled him in by the tie and kissed him again. Click, click, click. It wasn't just betrayal. It was familiarity. They didn't act like 2 people sneaking around. They acted like a couple who had been doing this for months. Comfortable. Rehearsed. I stayed in that motel all night. Couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment. Every lie. Every word she'd fed me like medicine. The client meetings. The headaches. The locked phone. All of it clicked into place like gears in a cruel machine. The next morning, her car was gone when I checked. I waited a few extra hours, then walked up to the cottage. No one answered the door. Through the windows, I saw a clean kitchen, an empty wine bottle in the sink, and 2 glasses still drying by the dish rack. I didn't break in. I didn't need to. The truth was already with me, on the memory card in my pocket, and in the weight pressing on my chest. When I got home, I transferred the photos to a private folder on my laptop, labeled it Insurance, and saved a backup to an external drive. I didn't know when or how I'd use them, but I would. Haley came home that night as if nothing had happened. She even brought me takeout Thai, my favorite. Long day? She asked, pecking my cheek. Yeah, I said. Busy. You should have called me, she offered. I was stuck in traffic forever. I nodded. Bet you were. She didn't notice the shift in my tone. Or if she did, she was too far into her act to care. That night, I watched her sleep. I really watched her. Her breathing. The way she curled one hand under her cheek. The faint line between her eyebrows that only showed when she was dreaming. All those little things that made her mine. All those details that now felt like they belonged to someone else. And I realized something terrifying. This wasn't the woman I married. Or maybe it was. Maybe this was who she'd always been. And I had just been too in love or too blind to see it. The confrontation wasn't planned. I didn't wake up that morning with a grand strategy or dramatic script in mind. I didn't rehearse lines in the mirror or time it for effect. It just happened. Because there comes a point when holding in the truth begins to rot something inside you. And I had reached mine. It was a Sunday morning. The house was quiet as usual. Owen had gone to a sleepover at a friend's place the night before, and Haley was curled up on the couch scrolling through her phone, sipping coffee, her legs tucked under her in that way that once made my heart feel warm. I watched her for a long moment. Just watched. How had I not seen it before? How many times had she smiled at me with that same mouth that kissed another man? How many times had she touched me after touching him? I didn't know what exactly pushed me over the edge. Maybe it was the sight of her wedding ring glinting in the morning light, a silent, infuriating contradiction to the truth I now carried, but something inside me snapped. I walked to the study and came back with my laptop. I set it down on the coffee table in front of her. She looked up, puzzled. What's this? Open the folder, I said. My voice was even. Flat. It's called insurance. Her brow furrowed, but she did as I asked. And then, for the first time in months, Haley didn't have a ready answer. She clicked the photos one by one. Her face drained of color. There were no screams. No denials. Just silence. A photo of her opening the door to the cottage. A photo of her kissing him on the porch. Her hand on his knee. Her head on his chest. The green dress. The wine. No wedding ring. How long? I asked. Simple. Direct. She didn't look at me. It's not what it looks like. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. Haley, please. Don't insult both of us. Still she hesitated. Still she couldn't meet my eyes. I want the truth, I said. This is your one chance to give it to me before I walk out of this room and never believe another word you say. That got her attention. She looked up and something flickered across her face. Regret, maybe? Or just fear? 5 months, she whispered. We met at a design conference. He's a supplier. What's his name? Jared. Is he married? She shook her head. Does he know about me? She paused. He knows I'm married. But not everything. That answered everything. He was just another piece of the lie. Another character in the fantasy world she'd built while keeping one foot in our real life. Did you love him? I asked. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. She didn't have to say it. Her silence said enough. I sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. Why? I don't know, she said. It wasn't about him, Trevor. It wasn't even about you. I lost myself somewhere. I shook my head. No, Haley. You didn't lose yourself. You made choices. Over and over again. You chose this. Tears welled up in her eyes. I never meant to hurt you. But you did. You didn't just hurt me, Haley. You led something. You took the life we built and burned it down, and now you want to tell me it was an accident. She opened her mouth to protest, but I raised a hand. No. Don't. You've lied enough. The silence that followed was the loudest moment of my life. It rang in my ears, filled the space between us, pushed against the walls of the house that had once been a home. And then she stood up. I think I should go. Where? I asked, though I didn't really care. I'll stay with Ashley. Take your things. She flinched as if I'd struck her. Trevor. I mean it. I want you out of this house by tonight. Don't make me say it twice. She stood frozen for a beat, as if waiting for me to soften, to reach for her, to change my mind. But I didn't. I just stared. Eventually she nodded. She went upstairs and packed in silence. I didn't follow. I didn't help. I sat there, staring at the flickering cursor on the laptop screen, blinking over the folder of photos that had become my new reality. By late afternoon, she came downstairs with 2 bags and a box of shoes. Her face was pale, eyes red but dry. She set her keys on the kitchen counter. I'll come back for the rest, she said softly. No, I replied. I'll pack it. You can pick it up from the porch. She nodded once, then hesitated at the door. Tell Owen I love him. I didn't answer. She walked out. I locked the door behind her. Then I changed the locks. That evening I deleted her from the bank accounts. removed her from the emergency contacts, canceled her credit card, wiped our shared cloud account. I went through the house room by room, pulling her things into bags, makeup from the bathroom, her robe from the closet, the coffee mug with the chipped handle she refused to throw away. And the photos. Every frame. Every album. Every smiling lie. I put them all in a box. Labeled it Haley. By midnight, the house was bare of her. It echoed with absence. I poured myself a drink and sat on the back porch, listening to the wind. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there with the ghosts of what could have been, letting them drift into the night. A week passed. Maybe a little more. The days blurred together like streaks of rain on a windshield. The house was quiet, eerily so, and for a while, that suited me just fine. Owen stayed with my sister while I sorted through the wreckage. I told him Mom was on a work trip. That was the lie I chose to tell. One last lie to protect him from the ones his mother had built her life around. I spent those days in a haze. Cleaning. Reorganizing. Rewriting everything I thought I knew. Every drawer I opened felt like a time capsule, receipts for vacations, anniversary cards, old photos where we looked like people who believed in each other. The hardest part wasn't what I found. It was knowing none of it meant anything now. And then, on a Tuesday morning, always a Tuesday, I got a phone call that stopped the world. It was the local police department. Mr. Mason? Yes. This is Officer Langford from the precinct on Ridge Avenue. We need you to come in. What's this about? It's regarding your son. My heart slammed into my chest. What about him? I'm very sorry, sir. We need to speak in person. I hung up, breath caught somewhere between panic and disbelief. I raced to the precinct, visions of twisted metal and sirens flashing behind my eyes. Owen, my boy, my only true thing in the world, something had happened to him. I couldn't breathe. When I got there, they led me into a sterile room, the kind with the buzzing overhead lights and beige chairs that creak when you move. Officer Langford closed the door gently and sat across from me. There's been some confusion, he started. And I want to clarify before you hear this from anyone else. What happened? My voice barely held. He hesitated. A death was reported involving a minor. A boy. Listed under the name Owen Mason. I froze. That's not possible. Owen's fine. He's with my sister. You're wrong. He opened a folder and laid out paperwork. A death certificate. A birth record. Photos. The boy in the file wasn't my son. Not the boy I raised. But it was Owen's name. My name. Haley's name. And then it all unraveled. We've been tracking a woman involved in several active investigations, Langford said. Your wife, Haley Mason, also goes by Carly Devereaux. Carly? He nodded. She's been linked to at least 3 identity fraud cases, 2 in-state and 1 federal. She uses falsified documents, marriage licenses, birth certificates, employment records. She creates entire personas. She's being looked into for large-scale fraud and possible child exploitation claims. My mind buckled. What does that have to do with Owen? Langford leaned forward. Sir, your son. He's not legally registered as yours. His documentation, birth certificate, medical records, even school enrollment, all falsified. No, I said, shaking my head. I raised him. I held him as a baby. I have photos. Memories, he's my son. I believe you, Langford said quietly. But biologically, he's not yours. We're working to determine his origin. Right now, we need your cooperation in locating anything Haley may have left behind, documents, IDs, anything unusual. I left that room feeling like gravity had stopped working. Owen wasn't mine? The woman I married didn't exist? I drove home in a fog. The house felt different, haunted in a new way. I opened every drawer, every box she'd ever touched. And that's when I found it behind the false panel in the hallway closet. A locked metal box. It wasn't hard to break open. Inside were 6 different driver's licenses. None with the name Haley Mason. One said Carly Devereaux. Another said Lisa Proctor. A third, Sarah Nolan. All different cities. All with different smiles. Prepaid credit cards. A stack of passports, 2 of them expired. Letters from other men. One said, I still believe you. Call me when it's safe. Another, I sent the money. Please come back. There were photos of her with another child. A boy, maybe 3, on a playground. In one image, she looked like the mother I thought I knew. But the date on the back was from 6 years before I met her. I sat on the floor with all of it spread around me, feeling like I'd stepped into someone else's nightmare. Haley, or Carly, or whoever she really was, had been playing a role from the start. Our life, our wedding, our home, it was all part of a script. And Owen, somehow, was a part of it too. But here's the thing, I didn't care what the paperwork said. He was still my son. He still drew me stick figures. He still called me Dad. He still held my hand when he was scared and whispered secrets into my ear like I was his whole world. No piece of paper would change that. But it changed everything else. I gave the evidence to the police. Every letter. Every ID. Every photo. They launched a full investigation. And just like that, I became a witness in a case that stretched across 3 states. I stopped sleeping. I started locking every door. I kept the curtains drawn. Part of me was terrified she'd come back. Part of me was terrified she wouldn't. Every day I expected a knock, a shadow in the window, a phone call that would flip everything again. But none came. Until one afternoon, a plain white envelope arrived. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Handwritten. Her handwriting. I never meant for it to get this far. Please don't let them take him from you. He's better with you. Tell him I'm sorry. That was it. No signature. No explanation. Just one more lie in a sea of deception. But the part that broke me? She was right. He was better with me. The next phase wasn't about grief anymore, it was about strategy. I couldn't afford to feel sorry for myself, not when it was clear that Haley or Carly had built our life as part of a long con. I wasn't just a betrayed husband. I was a mark. So I hired a private investigator. A real one. Ex-law enforcement, expensive, discreet. I handed over everything: photos, emails, the hotel keycard, the IDs, even Owen's fake birth certificate. I wanted the whole truth, no matter how dark it got. And the truth came fast. She had taken out a life insurance policy in my name. A large one. Almost $500,000. Listed herself as the beneficiary. Faked a company connection to make it seem like an employer benefit. I only found out because the investigator traced a set of emails from a burner account she used to approve the documentation. The policy had a clause, accidental death payout within 2 years. And our anniversary was coming up. She was planning to vanish with my identity, the payout, and possibly Owen. Whether that meant faking my death or orchestrating it, I never found out. I didn't want to know. We turned the files over to law enforcement. They coordinated with state investigators already tracking her. The timing was eerie. Because a few days later, she came back. She walked right up to our porch like it was any other day. Probably thought I was still blind. She was there to collect the rest of her things. Instead, 3 officers were waiting. She didn't resist. Didn't even speak. Just gave me one long, unreadable look as they led her away in cuffs. I didn't feel satisfaction. Just relief. The kind that comes from surviving something you didn't even know was *ling you. After everything, I left. I packed what I could, sold the house, and moved to Wyoming. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere without memories in the walls. I changed my name, not legally, not yet, but enough that I could introduce myself without hearing the echo of the man I used to be. I opened a small woodworking shop in a sleepy town with 1 diner and 2 stoplights. No one asked questions. No one cared who I used to be. The first year was hard. Nights were long. Sleep was fractured. Some mornings I'd wake up expecting to see Owen's sneakers by the front door, a drawing taped to the fridge, a voice calling Dad. But it was just silence. Still, the silence healed. And then, one afternoon, Ellie walked in. She was looking for a hand-carved bench. Something for her porch. Said she was a widow. Lost her husband to cancer 2 years ago. There was a softness in her voice, like someone who understood loss without making it dramatic. We talked. Then talked more. She never asked too much, never pressed. And I never told her everything. But she knew enough. We built something. Not fast. Not romantic. Just steady. 2 years later, I realized something. I wasn't holding my breath anymore. I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. The deception had destroyed everything I thought I knew. But in the wreckage, I'd found something I never expected. Peace. Not the kind you fight for. The kind you stumble into when there's nothing left to lose. And everything's still ahead.